In 2026, the world of operating systems is experiencing a shift that many industry watchers didn't fully predict just a few years ago. Microsoft has long dominated the desktop computing space with its Windows operating system. Year after year, Windows releases continued to evolve, offering new features, performance improvements, and redesigned interfaces. Yet, in recent times, especially with the buzz around the hypothetical Windows 12, something unexpected has been happening. More and more users are turning their attention toward Linux distributions, and in many segments, Linux is gaining momentum, not just as a niche alternative, but as a mainstream contender. In this video, we're going to unpack the rumors about Windows 12, explore why so many people are talking about it, and more importantly, examine why Linux distros seem to be beating Microsoft in 2026. The rumors surrounding Windows 12 are oddly reminiscent of earlier cycles in Microsoft's history. They began as whispers in developer forums, inside tech communities, and on social media. What initially started as speculation about a next-generation Windows release soon grew into a storm of expectations, myths, and misinformation. Some claimed that Windows 12 would be a quantum leap, a completely reimagined operating system built from the ground up, blending artificial intelligence with seamless cross-device compatibility. Others promised it would finally solve every performance complaint Windows users had ever expressed. Yet, as 2026 unfolds, there's no official release, no global rollout, and instead a growing sentiment that Microsoft's desktop crown is slipping. Part of the reason behind all these rumors is that Microsoft's productivity and cloud businesses remain phenomenally strong. Azure continues to grow, Office 365 subscriptions are booming, and enterprise adoption of Windows, Server, and cloud tools is at an all-time high. But on the desktop side, where Windows historically reigned almost unchallenged, something different is happening. Windows 11, the most recent official release, is stable and capable. It offers new user interface elements, integrates with Microsoft's broader ecosystem, and brings modern security enhancements. Yet, many users expected Windows 12 to be a watershed moment that would reinvigorate the platform. The lack of clear communication from Microsoft, along with confusion about the future roadmap, has inadvertently fueled speculation. Meanwhile, the Linux world has been quietly accelerating. Distributions like Ubuntu Fedora, Pop_OS, and newer community-driven versions have evolved leaps and bounds. They're no longer the rough geek-only operating systems that many casual users once perceived them to be. In fact, for many people today, running Linux feels comfortable, modern, and reliable. A big part of why Linux is gaining now is because of a combination of real technological improvements, community-driven innovation, and frustrations with heavier proprietary ecosystems. Linux distributions in 2026 benefit from years of maturation. The graphical user interfaces are smooth, polished, and customizable. Package management systems are more intuitive, and software compatibility layers like Wine and Proton have dramatically improved, letting users run many Windows applications and games with minimal friction. The rise of Flatpak, Snap, and AppImage has made installing software easier for non-technical users. Long gone are the days when most Linux distributions were primarily targeted at developers or server administrators. They now rival mainstream systems in ease of use and performance. Another major factor is the changing expectations of users. People today care deeply about privacy, control of their data, and transparency in how their operating system operates. Over the last decade, concerns about telemetry, forced updates, and proprietary restrictions have caused frustration among many Windows users. These aren't just power users. Average laptop and desktop owners are increasingly savvy about how their devices behave and what data is collected. Linux, with its open-source ethos, offers a level of transparency that proprietary systems simply cannot match. Users can see the code, understand what the system is doing, and tailor their setup to their individual needs. That kind of control is powerful, especially in an age where digital privacy has become a priority. Gaming is another surprising battleground, where Linux has made significant gains. A few years ago, gaming on Linux was a niche hobby, supported by a dedicated but small community. The lack of native AAA game support was often cited as a barrier, but thanks to the massive efforts by projects like Steam Proton, gaming compatibility layers, and broader support from game developers, Linux gaming is now a real choice for many players. Popular game titles once exclusive to Windows now run smoothly on Linux with near-native performance. The demand for Windows was in part driven by gaming. If that requirement is eroding, people are freer to experiment with alternatives. Cloud computing and virtualization trends have also favored Linux. Many developers, cloud-based environments, and containerized workflows run predominantly on Linux servers. When developers use Linux day in and day out for their work, they're often more inclined to run it on their personal machines too. The familiarity breeds comfort. Moreover, with the advent of remote development tools and cloud-based integrated development environments (IDEs), developers can work almost anywhere, further detaching the need for a specific desktop OS. Another big reason Linux distros are gaining steam is performance and efficiency. Older hardware that struggles under Windows 10 or Windows 11 often runs beautifully with lightweight Linux distributions for users who want to revitalize an aging laptop or desktop. Linux offers a way to extract years of additional usable life from devices that would otherwise be obsolete or sluggish under Windows. In an era where sustainability and reducing electronic waste are increasingly important, this advantage resonates with eco-conscious users. Even in education and enterprise environments, Linux is seeing heightened interest. Many educational institutions and businesses are choosing Linux-based solutions to cut costs, reduce licensing fees, and avoid vendor lock-in. With powerful open-source office suites like LibreOffice and collaborative tools integrated into web browsers, many users find that Linux meets their everyday needs without sacrificing functionality. Centralized management tools for Linux desktops have improved as well, making it easier for IT departments to deploy, update, and maintain large fleets of machines. Despite all these shifts, it's important to remember that Microsoft still holds massive market share and influence. Windows is installed on hundreds of millions of machines worldwide. Enterprises rely on Windows-based applications, legacy systems, and proprietary software that simply doesn't have direct equivalents on other platforms. Microsoft isn't going away, far from it. What's changing is the perception that Windows is the only viable choice for desktop computing. The rumors and anticipation around Windows 12 reflect a kind of collective desire, a hope that Microsoft would reinvent the desktop experience, address long-standing complaints, and deliver something that feels truly next generation. Many thought Windows 12 would be lightweight, modular, cloud-connected, but user-friendly, and capable of closing the gap with modern competition. They imagined intelligent automation features powered by artificial intelligence, deep integration with cloud-based personal environments, and enhanced security that didn't disrupt usability. Yet, as years have passed with no official launch, some feel like they've been left in limbo. Part of this hesitation from Microsoft could be strategic. The company's business focus has been intensely concentrated on cloud infrastructure, enterprise services, AI integration, and subscription models. Windows, while still important, may no longer be the singular centerpiece it once was. Microsoft is cognizant that the operating system landscape is evolving. People are computing in fundamentally different ways than they did 10 or 15 years ago. Phones, tablets, cloud apps, and cross-platform ecosystems are increasingly the norm. In such an environment, a massive desktop release may not carry the same weight it once did. At the same time, rumors often grow in the absence of official information. When a company doesn't share clear roadmaps, speculation fills the gaps. Some rumors about Windows 12 are rooted in genuine leaks or beta hints. Others are pure wishful thinking or outright misinformation. Distinguishing between these has become a challenge for many tech enthusiasts and average consumers alike. Social media amplifies every tidbit, whether credible or not. Before you know it, an unverified claim becomes accepted truth, simply because it's been shared thousands of times. In contrast, the Linux community thrives on openness and transparency. Development roadmaps, source code, and feature discussions are public. Users can see precisely what's being built, how it's progressing, and even participate if they choose. That kind of community-driven evolution creates trust. When Ubuntu announces a new feature, users can track every step of its development. When Fedora or another distro implements a major change, the rationale and conversations are viewable. This level of visibility has helped Linux maintain an engaged and loyal user base, and in many cases, attract new users who appreciate the clarity. Another factor in Linux's favor is the diversity of choice. There isn't just one Linux, there are hundreds of distributions, each with its philosophy, design goals, and communities. Some are built for minimalism and speed, others for creativity and multimedia work, and yet others for stability and enterprise use. This diversity means users can pick a version that aligns closely with their needs. In contrast, Windows users get a relatively uniform experience with limited customization. That uniformity is great for reducing fragmentation, but it also limits personalization and flexibility. It's worth acknowledging that the switch to Linux isn't perfect or easy for everyone. Some users face compatibility challenges with proprietary software that doesn't run natively on Linux. There are still niche applications where Windows remains the only viable choice. And for many casual users, the familiar Windows environment, with its decades of established UI patterns, is hard to replace emotionally. Learning a new system, even one that's user-friendly, requires effort and patience. Yet innovation often thrives where there is both challenge and choice. Linux has benefited from the contributions of thousands of developers worldwide, each bringing unique perspectives and improvements. Companies like System76, Canonical, and Red Hat have invested heavily in making Linux more accessible. Hardware manufacturers are slowly improving Linux driver support. Open-source ecosystems have grown richer, with tools that rival or surpass proprietary counterparts in terms of capability. So when we talk about Linux distros beating Microsoft in 2026, what does that actually mean? It doesn't mean Windows is dead, far from it. Microsoft is still a giant, and Windows is still widely used. But it does mean that the assumption of Windows as the default or only practical choice for personal computing is shifting. Users now have robust alternatives that are competitive, modern, and in some cases, more aligned with their values around privacy, control, and openness. The complex interplay between rumor and reality around Windows 12 highlights an important truth. Users are demanding more from their technology than ever before. People want systems that respect their privacy, that don't hold them hostage to forced updates or opaque telemetry, and that empower them rather than restrict them. They want choice, performance, and transparency. Linux, as an open-source ecosystem, speaks to these desires in a way that proprietary systems struggle to match. As the landscape continues to evolve, one thing is certain: the operating system wars aren't over. Microsoft still commands a huge installed base, and any future Windows release, whether it's called Windows 12 or something else, will have a massive impact. But today's computing world is more diverse and vibrant than ever before. Linux distros aren't just alternatives. For many, they are the preferred platforms. And with each passing year, as tools improve, communities grow, and awareness rises, that preference becomes more mainstream. Windows rumors will continue to circulate, fueled by anticipation and speculation. But the reality is that users are no longer waiting passively. They're exploring, testing, switching, and building communities around the systems that best meet their needs. Whether you're a developer, a gamer, a student, an artist, or simply someone who wants a reliable and transparent computing experience, the choices available today are richer and more compelling than at any time in history. So, as we look toward the future, one thing becomes clear: the power of open-source development, community collaboration, and user choice is stronger than ever. Windows 12 rumors may fade or eventually materialize into a real release, but the broader trend toward greater diversity and competition in the operating system landscape is already here. And that trend is reshaping how we think about computing, ownership, and technology itself.